I never thought I'd be here, stuck in this endless loop of worrying about money, day in and day out. It's not like I'm lazy or careless with my cash. I work hard, sometimes 2 jobs, and yet it never feels like enough. The bills pile up faster than I can pay them, and the cost of living keeps shooting upward like some cruel joke. Every month, I sit down with my bank statement and hope it all adds up, but it never does. It's like I'm caught in this trap, a system designed so that no matter what I do, I'm running just to stay in place. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing on my mind isn't what I'm excited about or what I want to do that day, it's what I have to pay for. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation. And those are just the basics. If I dare to think beyond survival, maybe about seeing friends, saving for a trip, or even getting a little break, those thoughts feel selfish or impossible. It's exhausting. There's a constant tightness in my chest, a quiet anxiety that doesn't let me relax because I'm always calculating what I can afford and what I can't. I remember the time a few months ago when my car broke down. It wasn't anything major, just the alternator, but the repair was going to cost more than I had saved. I had to borrow money from a friend, which made me feel humiliated and desperate. That friend was kind about it, but I could see the hesitation behind their smile. It's hard to ask for help when you're supposed to be an adult, supposed to have it all figured out. But what choice did I have? Without the car, I couldn't get to work, and without work, the whole precarious balance would collapse. That week was one of the worst I can remember, sleepless nights, trying to stretch every dollar, and feeling the weight of failure pressing down. Everyday decisions have become exercises in prioritizing. Should I eat out this week? No, better not. Do I need that new phone charger, or can I make the old one last a bit longer? Can I really afford to replace my worn-out shoes? Sometimes, even choosing to buy a coffee feels like a betrayal of my budget. Those little pleasures have slipped away, replaced by a grim ledger of expenses and compromises. I catch myself envying people who don't seem to sweat over these choices, who can plan vacations or just spontaneously buy something they want. That kind of freedom feels like a distant fantasy. My social life has suffered too. I often say no to invitations because I know I can't afford it. Drinks, dinners, movies, they all add up. I miss out on moments with friends, which makes me feel isolated and lonely. I tell myself it's temporary, but the months turn into years, and the loneliness lingers. It's a strange kind of pain, to feel so close to people yet so far away because of something as mundane as money. And then there are my dreams, the ones I had before the pressure became so intense. I used to think I'd travel, maybe spend a summer abroad, or take some courses to improve my skills. I dreamed about buying a home one day, about stability and security. Those hopes have been postponed indefinitely. Sometimes I whisper them to myself in the dark, a fragile flame trying to stay alive amid the storm. It hurts to let go of those dreams, to admit that they might never happen, or at least not anytime soon. I try to cope the best I can. I keep a budget, track every penny, and look for ways to save. I take deep breaths and remind myself that this phase won't last forever, even if it feels like it will. I find small moments of peace in walking outside, in listening to music, or reading a good book. Those moments are precious, like tiny islands of calm in a sea of stress. But some nights, when I'm alone and the silence is too loud, the pressure feels suffocating. I lie awake thinking about how unfair it all is, that despite working so hard, I'm still barely getting by. It's easy to feel invisible, like the system was built for someone else, not for people like me who are just trying to survive. The gap between expenses and income isn't just numbers on a page, it's a daily reality that shapes how I live, who I am, and what I can hope for. Still, I keep going. Because what choice do I have? Giving up isn't an option. I hold on to the hope that things will get better, that maybe someday I'll break free from this cycle and breathe without the constant weight of money dragging me down. Until then, I'll keep facing each day, making tough decisions, and trying to find moments of joy in the little things. This is my story, not just about financial pressure, but about resilience and the quiet fight to keep dreaming, even when it feels impossible. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. It feels like I'm living in a loop I can't escape, one where the cost of everything climbs higher every month, while my paycheck barely moves. I'm 27 now, and for years I've been caught in this slow squeeze, where my expenses grow faster than my income, and the weight of that reality settles deep into my bones. It's not just the numbers on a spreadsheet, it's the way this pressure shapes every decision I make, how it gnaws at my peace of mind, and how it forces me to put my dreams on hold. When I first started working full-time after college, I was hopeful. I thought with steady work and careful budgeting, I'd be able to build a life, maybe rent a nice place, travel a bit, save for the future. But reality hit hard. Rent alone takes up over half my paycheck now, and it's gone up twice in the last year. Groceries, utilities, transportation, everything seems to cost more with each passing month. I remember the day I realized I couldn't afford both a new winter coat and my phone bill in the same month. Choosing to go without that coat felt like a punch to my pride and my sense of security. Every day is a series of compromises and calculations. Should I drive or take the bus, knowing gas prices are soaring? Is it better to meal prep for the week or risk the temptation of convenience food? Should I decline my friend's invitation because it means spending money I don't have? These questions aren't just fleeting thoughts, they're a constant undercurrent that shapes my world. Social life shrinks, and sometimes I wonder if I'm slowly disappearing from the lives of people I care about because I can't keep up. The emotional toll is heavy and sometimes overwhelming. There's a persistent anxiety that sits like a stone in my chest. What if my car breaks down, or I get sick and face medical bills I can't handle? Without savings, the fear of emergencies haunts me. I've spent many nights staring at the ceiling, heart racing, running worst-case scenarios in my mind. It's exhausting to live with this constant edge of worry. It affects my sleep, my mood, my ability to focus at work. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing. I tell myself I'm doing all the right things, working hard, tracking expenses, cutting back on non-essentials. But the system feels rigged. Wages don't keep up with inflation, and job growth that would lead to better pay or stability seems out of reach. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much I pour in, it never feels enough. My dreams, the ones I held so tightly for years, have been postponed indefinitely. Buying a home feels like a distant fantasy rather than an attainable goal. Traveling, going back to school, investing in hobbies or self-care, these have all been pushed to the back burner, replaced by the daily grind of surviving. I've learned to measure success by smaller victories now, making rent on time, finding a deal at the grocery store, keeping my utility bills paid. To cope, I seek small moments of peace. Morning walks help clear my mind and remind me there's more to life than stress and numbers. I escape into books borrowed from the library, letting myself live in other worlds for a little while. I've started opening up to close friends about what I'm going through, and that vulnerability has brought unexpected comfort. Knowing I'm not alone in this struggle means more than I can say. This financial pressure has reshaped who I am. It's made me cautious, anxious, but also quietly resilient. I'm learning to hold on to hope, fragile as it is, that someday the tide will turn. That my dreams, though delayed, can still come to life. This is my story, an honest, vulnerable glimpse into the life of a young adult trapped in the relentless cycle of rising expenses and stagnant income. If you're living this too, know that your struggle is real, your feelings are valid, and you are not alone. I never thought I'd be this exhausted by money, not just the lack of it, but the way it twists itself around every part of my life, squeezing tighter every month. It's like drowning in slow motion. I wake up in the morning knowing I have to stretch what little I have to cover rent, groceries, bills, and maybe something for myself, but usually, that last part just doesn't happen. There's always something new, some unexpected expense or price hike that pulls me under a little more. The cost of living feels like a wave I can't get ahead of. Rent went up again this year, as it always does, but my paychecks don't. My job barely gives me raises that keep up with inflation, so every dollar feels like it's worth less than the month before. It's a game rigged against me, and I'm stuck playing with no way out. Some days, I find myself hesitating before turning on the heater, even in the dead of winter. I count the minutes in the shower to avoid running the hot water too long. I skip meals, not because I'm starving, but because I want to save a few dollars for something that might come up. The irony is that these small cuts chip away at my energy and mood, making everything else feel harder. I remember the dreams I had just a few years ago. I wanted to travel, to see places beyond the city skyline I've stared at every day. I wanted to go back to school, maybe finish that degree I never quite completed. I dreamed of owning a little apartment someday, something stable, a place that felt truly mine. Now those dreams seem like a distant echo, swallowed by bills and the constant hum of just getting by. Financial pressure isn't just about numbers. It's about the way it sneaks into your thoughts, creeping in between moments of joy and hope. Sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I lie awake worrying about what happens if something breaks down, my phone, my car, or the furnace. I imagine the mounting debt, the calls from collection agencies, the shame of asking for help again. It's a gnawing anxiety that never fully goes away. The economy feels like a giant machine, one I'm small and powerless against. Jobs promise security, but that's just a word now, a fleeting hope that never quite materializes. Every time I consider switching jobs, I weigh the risks of losing what little stability I have, even if the new gig might pay more or offer benefits. The thought of starting over, of not having a safety net, is terrifying. Coping with this pressure takes its toll. I find myself withdrawing from friends and family because I'm embarrassed to admit I can't afford to join them for dinner or a night out. Social invitations become a source of stress instead of connection. I pretend I'm okay, but inside, I'm often just holding on. I've learned to be resourceful, clipping coupons, hunting for sales, cooking meals from scratch, and avoiding impulse buys. But it's exhausting, like a never-ending project that leaves little room for rest. I'm constantly balancing the need to save with the need to live, and it feels like there's no middle ground. Sometimes, when I do allow myself a small treat, a coffee with a friend, a new book, a movie night, I feel guilty, like I'm betraying the larger goal of financial survival. That guilt is heavy, and it makes joy feel fleeting and fragile. I want to believe I deserve those moments, but it's hard to fully accept when money is always hovering like a shadow. Despite all this, I still hold on to hope, even if it's faint. I remind myself that this isn't forever. I keep imagining a future where I'm not just surviving, but thriving. Where I can look back and say, that was tough, but I made it through. I dream of a day when I can open my own door without hesitation, when I can travel without worrying about the cost, when I can invest in myself again, education, experiences, wellness. For now, I'm learning to be kind to myself, to recognize that these struggles don't define my worth. I remind myself that I'm more than my paycheck, my debts, or the bills stacked on the counter. This system feels designed to keep people like me trapped, but I'm not giving up. I'll keep fighting, finding small victories where I can, and holding on to the fragile hope that someday, the tide will turn. Until then, I take it one day at a time, $1 stretched as far as it can go, one breath through the pressure. It's not easy, but it's real. And maybe, in sharing this, I'm not so alone after all. Sometimes I wonder how I ended up here, caught in this endless loop where it feels like no matter how hard I try, I'm just treading water, barely keeping my head above the rising tide of bills and expenses. I'm 27 now, and every day feels like a battle against a system that's designed to move faster than I ever can. The prices go up, the rent creeps higher, groceries cost more, and somehow, my paycheck stays the same, or barely inches forward. It's exhausting. It's frustrating. And honestly, it's terrifying. I remember the day I got my first real job after college, a modest salary, but enough to feel hopeful. I thought, okay, now I can start living, maybe save a bit, maybe even think about the future. But reality hit fast. Rent ate up nearly half my paycheck, then utilities, phone, internet, transportation, it all added up before I even bought food or thought about anything else. And those small expenses? They started piling up in ways I never expected: car repairs, medical co-pays, the occasional unexpected fee. I realized quickly that living paycheck to paycheck wasn't just a cliché. It was my life. It's strange how these financial pressures seep into every corner of your life, changing how you think and feel about everything. I can't just decide to go out with friends on a whim. A dinner or drinks out means sacrificing groceries for a few days or skipping a bill payment. Even small joys feel like luxuries, weighed down by the math in my head. If I spend $20 tonight, what gets postponed tomorrow? Sometimes I catch myself avoiding answering texts because social invitations feel like threats to my fragile budget. The emotional toll is just as heavy as the financial one. There's a constant gnawing anxiety that lives in the background of my mind, a whisper telling me I'm never quite enough, that I'm always behind. I feel ashamed sometimes, even though I know I'm doing all I can. I can't help but compare myself to peers who seem to be doing better, buying homes, traveling, climbing the career ladder, while I'm stuck juggling debts and trying not to let the stress crush me. It's isolating. It makes me question my worth. Some days, I lie awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about the dreams I used to have. I wanted to travel the world, write a book, maybe start a business or go back to school to study something I truly love. But those plans feel like distant echoes now. Every cent I can scrape together goes to survival, to paying off debts, to ensuring I don't fall behind. The future I imagined, one filled with freedom and creativity, has been replaced by a narrow path where each step requires careful calculation and sacrifice. Yet, amidst all this pressure, I find ways to cope. I've become an expert at budgeting, at hunting sales, at stretching every dollar. I've learned to cook cheap but decent meals, to find joy in free or low-cost activities, to lean on the small moments of connection with friends and family that don't cost money but mean everything. I talk openly about money struggles with a few trusted people, and it's a relief to know I'm not alone. Still, there are days when the weight feels unbearable, when tears come without warning, and the future looks like a blur of uncertainty. I want to believe there's a way out, that the system isn't a trap, but a challenge I can overcome. I hold on to hope that someday, I'll break free of this cycle, that my income will grow faster than my expenses, that I'll have enough not just to survive but to live fully. I dream of a day when I can say yes to opportunities without fear, when I can plan for the future without anxiety gnawing at me. But for now, that future feels just out of reach, a fragile hope I cling to in the quiet moments. If I'm honest, what I really want is security, the kind that doesn't come with strings attached or the constant pressure to keep up. I want to wake up without that sinking feeling in my stomach, without the endless mental math, without the shame and worry. I want to feel like I'm enough, not just in spite of my financial situation, but because I'm more than my bank balance. This story isn't just mine. It's the story of so many young adults caught in the same struggle, trying to make sense of a world where the cost of living rises faster than any of us can earn, where the American dream, or whatever version of success you hold, feels like an illusion. We're resilient, yes, but also vulnerable, and sometimes we just need to be heard. So here I am, speaking honestly about my fears, my exhaustion, my hopes. Because maybe if more of us share these stories, the system will start to feel less like a trap and more like something we can change. Maybe then, those postponed dreams can finally start to take shape. Until that day, I keep going, step by cautious step, holding on to hope and doing my best to keep my head above water. I never imagined that money would shape my life so thoroughly, that it would feel like an invisible weight pressing down on every choice I make. I'm 25 now, and for the past several years, the steady climb of expenses against the stagnant or barely rising income one earn has trapped me in a cycle I can't seem to break free from. It's like being caught in quicksand: the harder I struggle, the deeper I sink. The economic environment today is brutal for people like me, who work full-time but still struggle to keep up with basics. Rent alone devours a huge chunk of my paycheck, and it's been climbing steadily with no end in sight. Groceries, utilities, gas, all have become more expensive. Every month, I sit down with my budget, hoping to find some wiggle room, but it never appears. It's like the costs grow faster than I can stretch my dollars. Simple things that used to bring me comfort, grabbing coffee with friends, going to the movies, buying a new book, now feel like luxuries I can't afford. I've learned to say no more often than yes. Invitations to social events get declined because I can't justify the extra expense, and it's lonely. The isolation stings almost as much as the financial stress. It feels like I'm missing out on life, watching from the sidelines because money always comes first. Every decision feels heavy. Should I spend $3 more on groceries to get fresh produce, or settle for cheaper processed food that won't nourish me as well? Should I take the bus and add an hour to my commute, or pay more to keep driving and save time? Even filling up my car's gas tank feels like a gamble. I ration everything, trying to hold on to some control in a system that seems designed to keep me struggling. The emotional toll is exhausting. Anxiety has become a constant companion, the kind that wakes me in the middle of the night, heart pounding, mind racing through all the what-ifs. What if my car breaks down? What if I get sick and can't afford the bills? What if I lose my job? Without a safety net, every unexpected expense threatens to topple me. I feel vulnerable and exposed, and sometimes overwhelmed by a helplessness I can't shake. There's also this deep frustration and sadness. I work hard. I'm careful. I try to save where I can. But the system isn't set up for me to get ahead. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. I see prices rising, hear about rent hikes and grocery inflation, but my paycheck stays flat. No raises, no promotions in sight. It's hard not to feel invisible, stuck in a cycle I didn't choose. I've had to put my dreams on pause. Buying a home, something I once thought was attainable, now feels like a far-off dream. Travel, further education, building a career with purpose, all shelved for the moment. I remind myself that postponing doesn't mean giving up, but it's hard not to mourn what feels lost. Sometimes I wonder if I'm trading my future for mere survival. To cope, I find small ways to reclaim peace. I take long walks in the park when I can, just to breathe and clear my mind. I borrow books from the library and let myself get lost in stories. I talk to friends who understand the struggle, and it helps to know I'm not alone. I try to practice gratitude for what I do have, even though it's tough. Every small victory, paying rent on time, making it through another month without crisis, feels like a lifeline. This ongoing financial pressure has changed me. It's made me more cautious, more anxious, but also more determined to find a way forward. I hold on to hope, fragile and flickering as it may be, that someday things will improve. That the hard work and sacrifices won't be in vain. That my dreams, though delayed, aren't lost forever. This is my story. A candid, vulnerable look at what it means to be a young adult living under the relentless pressure of rising expenses and stagnant income. If you feel this too, know that you are seen, your struggle is real, and you are not alone. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just stuck in a loop, a never-ending cycle of bills and paychecks, expenses growing faster than my income, and dreams that feel like distant stars, always shining, always out of reach. I'm 27, working full-time, trying to keep my head above water, but it feels like the water's rising faster than I can swim. The economic world around me seems like a giant wave I can't outrun. Every month, I get the same paycheck, roughly the same number, but the prices, rent, groceries, utilities, insurance, they keep creeping up. Last year, my rent went up again, and I remember staring at the new amount like it was some kind of cruel joke. How am I supposed to afford this? I thought I'd be further by now. I thought I'd be saving, investing, maybe traveling a little, or even thinking about buying a place. But the truth is, I'm just trying to make sure I don't fall behind on rent or let my phone get disconnected. I never thought I'd feel this trapped. I grew up hearing about the American dream, though I'm not American, about working hard and eventually getting ahead. But right now, hard work feels like it just means running on a treadmill that's speeding up. I clock in at my job every day, do what's asked, and still find myself debating every purchase. Should I get a coffee on the way to work? Can I afford the bus ticket this week or should I walk more to save money? That's how detailed my thinking gets sometimes, down to the small things that most people don't notice or don't have to worry about. Emotions ride this wave too. There's a mix of anxiety and exhaustion that clings to me, the kind that settles deep in your chest. I catch myself holding my breath when an unexpected expense comes up, a medical bill, a car repair, or even a sudden need to replace a worn-out pair of shoes. I've learned to brace myself for those moments. There's this persistent background hum of stress, like static noise I can't quite turn off. I try not to let it consume me, but it's there, always lurking. Sometimes, I feel ashamed. Like I'm failing somehow. Why can't I get it right? Why can't I pull ahead? Social media doesn't help either. Everyone seems to be living these perfect lives, traveling, buying homes, posting pictures of dinners out, while I'm counting pennies and dreaming about a day without financial stress. It's isolating. I want to talk about it, but I'm scared it'll sound like whining or weakness. Instead, I tuck these feelings away and keep going. But I do have my ways of coping. I've gotten good at budgeting, not out of choice but necessity. I track every expense on an app, I cook at home instead of eating out, I cut subscriptions one by one until I'm down to the bare minimum. I even started walking more just to save on transportation. It's tiring, but it's a way to keep control. And sometimes, I find small moments of joy in the simple things, a good book from the library, a free concert in the park, a call with a friend. Those moments remind me there's more to life than just money. The hardest part is the dreams I've had to postpone. I used to imagine moving to a bigger city, exploring new opportunities, maybe even going back to school for something I'm passionate about. But that feels like a luxury now. Instead, I'm stuck in this small apartment, in a job that pays the bills but doesn't excite me, watching my ambitions shrink bit by bit under the weight of reality. I wonder if this is just a phase, if someday I'll break free. I hold on to hope, even when it feels fragile. I hope for a raise, for a new job, for some unexpected break that makes the numbers add up differently. I hope for a day when I don't have to choose between essentials and a little happiness. Maybe that day will come. Maybe I'll find a way out of this system that seems designed to keep me trapped. Until then, I keep swimming, keep budgeting, keep dreaming quietly. Because despite everything, I still believe there's a life worth living beyond these pressures. And maybe, just maybe, I'll find it one day. I never imagined that turning 25 would feel like standing in quicksand, slowly sinking, no matter how much I struggle or reach out. I wake up every day with this tight knot in my chest, knowing that the weight of money, or rather the lack of it, is going to follow me from the moment I open my eyes until I finally fall asleep exhausted. It's not just about being broke. It's the way the whole system seems rigged against me, expenses rising like some unstoppable tide, while my paycheck stays stubbornly flat, barely covering the essentials, and never anything extra. I live in a small apartment in the city, a place that's convenient for work but anything but affordable. Rent takes up nearly half of what I earn, and every month, I watch utility bills, groceries, and transit costs creep higher. The inflation numbers they report on the news aren't just statistics to me, they're the reason I have to cut corners on food or skip the occasional doctor's visit because I simply can't afford it. I remember a time when I used to get excited about weekends, about hanging out with friends, or even just buying a coffee I liked instead of the cheapest instant brand. Now, those little pleasures feel like luxuries I have no business indulging in. The strangest part is how normal this struggle has become to me. It's like I'm living in a fog of constant worry that's always just beneath the surface but never fully disappears. When I'm at work, I try to focus on my tasks, but my mind drifts to the rent that's due in a week or the credit card bill that I can barely pay down. I find myself comparing every choice: should I take the bus or walk? Cook at home or grab a cheap fast food meal? Stay up late and work extra hours or try to preserve my sanity and risk falling behind? These are the daily dilemmas that grind me down. I didn't always expect life to be this way. Growing up, I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to travel, see the world, maybe start my own business one day. But those dreams feel like distant stars now, flickering faintly and out of reach. Every time I try to save for something meaningful, an unexpected expense wipes it out, like when my laptop died last year or when the boiler in my apartment broke in the dead of winter. It's hard not to feel trapped in a cycle where I'm just reacting to emergencies rather than moving forward. Sometimes, the pressure gets so intense that it feels physical, like a weight pressing down on my chest. The anxiety often leads to restless nights or days when I feel like I'm barely holding myself together. I catch myself feeling ashamed, as if I'm failing because I can't make it work despite all my efforts. But deep down, I know this isn't about personal failure, it's about a system that seems to expect more and more from people like me, without providing a real path to stability. To cope, I've developed little routines that help me survive the day-to-day. I track every penny I spend, even the smallest amounts, because losing sight of where my money goes terrifies me. I reach out to friends sparingly, not because I don't want to share, but because I'm scared they'll see me as weak or overwhelmed. I try to stay optimistic by reading stories of people who manage to pull through, even if they're rare. And sometimes, when no one's watching, I just let myself cry, because bottling everything up is worse than admitting I'm struggling. There's a bittersweetness in the small moments, though. Like the way I feel when I finally manage to cook a decent meal from scratch, saving a few dollars and enjoying the process. Or the relief of crossing a bill off my list, even if just for a moment. These small victories remind me that I'm still fighting, still trying to carve out some space of dignity and hope. Looking ahead, I try to hold on to the possibility that things might get better. Maybe one day, I'll find a job that pays enough to cover more than just the bare minimum. Maybe I'll have the chance to move somewhere less expensive, or find a way to build savings that let me breathe easier. I remind myself that my dreams, traveling, starting a business, simply feeling financially secure, aren't gone forever, they're just paused. But the pause feels heavy, and sometimes I wonder how much longer I can keep this up without losing pieces of myself. What I want most is freedom, not just freedom from debt or bills, but freedom from this constant fear, this exhaustion that steals so much joy. I want to believe that the system can change, that it can support people like me instead of squeezing us tighter every day. Until then, I'll keep waking up, making the best choices I can, and holding on to hope that the future will be kinder. Being young and struggling with money isn't just a phase or a temporary setback, it's an emotional battleground that shapes every decision, every feeling, every plan. And I'm still here, still trying to figure out how to live a life that's worth more than just surviving. If someone asked me what I want them to understand, it's this: the stress of living paycheck to paycheck isn't just about numbers, it's about losing parts of your soul to a system that keeps pushing the goalposts further away. But even when I feel trapped, I haven't given up on the possibility of a better tomorrow. I never thought I'd feel this way, trapped, stretched thin, always a few steps behind. At 27, I'm supposed to be building a life, chasing dreams, planning for the future. But instead, I'm locked in a constant battle with numbers on a screen, where my expenses keep rising and my income barely holds steady. It's like living in a slow-motion squeeze, tightening every day, making it harder to breathe. The economic environment isn't just some distant backdrop, it shapes every part of my day. Rent went up again this year, and with it, my anxiety. I remember the day I opened the email notice, heart sinking as I did the math. I had already cut back everywhere I could. Groceries? I switched from fresh to frozen, then to canned. Coffee? Gone. Nights out with friends? Almost non-existent. My social life has become a casualty of the budget war I fight silently. Bills pile up faster than I can pay them. Utilities, phone, internet, transit costs, they all creep higher, each one chipping away at my paycheck. I sometimes find myself weighing one necessity against another. Do I pay the internet bill so I can work and apply for better jobs, or keep the lights on? It's a twisted calculus that leaves no room for mistakes or emergencies. When the car broke down last winter, I had to borrow from friends to cover the repairs. It was humiliating and terrifying because I knew I might never fully pay them back. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There's this gnawing feeling of failure, even though I'm working 2 jobs. I wonder if I'm not doing enough, or if the system just isn't built for people like me. The weight of financial insecurity burrows deep, it's sleepless nights, the pit in my stomach, the quiet moments when I realize I'm always anxious, even when I'm trying to relax. Depression and stress have become unwelcome roommates, reminding me daily that I'm caught in a cycle I can't escape. Every choice feels like a compromise. I skip meals to save money, turn off the heat to avoid a spike in bills, delay medical appointments, and ignore small needs that I know will only get bigger if left unattended. I try to be frugal, clip coupons, hunt for discounts, and take any side gig I can find, but it's like chasing a mirage. The expenses grow faster than my paycheck, and I'm left juggling debt and diminishing hope. My dreams, the things I once believed were within reach, feel further away. Owning a home, traveling, even going back to school for a degree or certification that could boost my career, all postponed indefinitely. I watch friends make progress while I feel stuck, and it's a painful reminder that life isn't fair. I worry about the long-term toll on my mental health, on my relationships, on who I'm becoming because of this relentless pressure. Still, I cope. I hold on to small moments of joy, a phone call with a close friend, a walk in the park, reading books borrowed from the library, cooking simple meals from scratch. I remind myself that this isn't permanent, that I'm not alone, even when it feels that way. I've started talking openly about my struggles, and it helps to break the silence. It's a daily fight, but giving up isn't an option. This story isn't just mine, it's the experience of countless young adults trying to make it work in a world where the costs of living soar while wages barely move. I hope that sharing this makes someone else feel seen, and maybe, together, we can find a way through the squeeze. If you're feeling trapped too, know you're not alone. This is real. This is life for many of us now. But there's strength in vulnerability, and hope in connection. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I never thought I'd feel this way at 27, like I'm caught in a current that's dragging me under, no matter how hard I swim. Every day feels like a test I'm barely passing, with bills piling up faster than I can pay them and opportunities slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. The pressure isn't just financial, it's emotional, mental, like a constant, heavy weight on my chest that I can't put down. I work 2 jobs right now. One is a steady 9 to 5 at a small marketing firm, nothing glamorous, but it pays the rent. The other is freelance writing gigs that come and go unpredictably, and though I'm grateful for the extra cash, it's stressful trying to piece together a paycheck that feels like it might disappear at any moment. Sometimes I lie awake at night, worrying about how I'll cover my credit card minimums or whether I should eat out or skip groceries for the week. The cost of living feels like a beast with an insatiable appetite. Rent has jumped again this year. My apartment is tiny, basically a glorified closet with a kitchenette, but it's still way beyond what feels reasonable. Utilities are climbing, groceries too, and I see the prices in the news, hear people talking about inflation, but it never feels real until it's your own bank account shrinking in real time. My paycheck seems to stretch less and less, no matter how hard I budget or cut back. Some months, I skip the small joys, no coffee runs, no nights out with friends, even turning off the heat a little earlier in winter just to save a few bucks. Those little sacrifices add up, but they don't erase the gnawing anxiety that I'm just surviving, not living. I watch people my age buying homes, traveling, investing in themselves, while I'm stuck trying to cover essentials, hoping a bigger freelance project comes through or that a friend needs a roommate so I can split costs. The emotional toll is harder to talk about than the money itself. It's lonely, feeling like I'm always behind, like I'm missing some secret about how to make it work. I catch myself scrolling through social media, seeing snapshots of lives that seem carefree, full of adventure and security, and it's a punch in the gut. I want to scream at the screen sometimes, not because I'm jealous, but because I want that too. I want to breathe easy. I want to dream without the fear of failure lurking behind every thought. The system feels rigged, like expenses keep growing faster than any paycheck ever can. I hear about wages stagnating, companies squeezing workers harder, and it's maddening. How am I supposed to get ahead? I try to remind myself that I'm not alone, so many people are in this boat, but it doesn't make the sinking feeling any less real. Some nights, when the stress becomes too much, I let myself cry. Not because I'm weak, but because it's the only way I can release the overwhelming weight. Then I pull myself together and make a list of what I can do tomorrow, maybe apply for a new job, maybe pitch a client for more work, maybe just make it through the day without breaking down. Coping feels like a full-time job itself. There are dreams I've had to push aside, dreams that now feel like luxuries. I wanted to travel more, to see places that inspire me, to learn languages, to feel alive in new ways. I dreamed of going back to school for a master's, to build a career with real growth potential. Sometimes I wonder if those dreams will ever come back or if they've been replaced by the harsher reality of bills and rent. But even in the darkest moments, I hold on to hope. I remind myself that this phase won't last forever, that maybe if I keep working hard and making smart choices, the tide will turn. I try to celebrate small victories, a freelance article that pays well, a month where I don't have to borrow money, a moment of genuine laughter with friends. I wish people understood how deeply exhausting it is to live in a world where financial pressure is constant and unforgiving. It's not just about money, it's about feeling trapped in a system that seems to value profit over people, where basic security feels out of reach for so many. And yet, somehow, we keep going. Someday, I want to look back on this time not just with pain, but with pride, that I survived, that I fought for a better future, that I refused to let circumstances define me. Until then, I take it one day at a time, holding on to hope like a lifeline in the storm. Because giving up is not an option, not for me, not for the countless others fighting the same fight. Every morning, I wake up with a knot in my stomach. It's that same feeling I've carried for the past few years, like I'm stuck on a treadmill that's speeding up, but I can't run any faster. The bills, the rent, groceries, gas, everything just keeps climbing, but my paycheck stays the same, barely inching forward. It's like the world around me is getting more expensive by the day, and I'm drowning in it, trying to keep my head above water. I'm 27, living in a tiny apartment I can barely afford on my own, working a job that used to feel like a stepping stone, but now feels like a trap. I remember when I graduated college, full of hope and excitement. I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to travel, maybe start my own business, save up for a house someday. But reality hit fast, like a cold splash of water, and suddenly those dreams felt like luxuries I couldn't afford. Every decision I make is weighed down by money. Should I get the bus or risk taking an Uber home because it's late and I'm exhausted? Should I buy groceries now or wait until next week when I get paid, knowing the fridge is nearly empty? Should I say yes to hanging out with friends, or stay in because I can't justify spending money on socializing? It's exhausting to live like this, like every choice is a battle between survival and sanity. Some days, I feel like I'm running on fumes. I wake up, check my bank account, and immediately feel the pressure tighten around my chest. There's that sinking feeling when I realize that after rent, utilities, and essentials, there's barely anything left to breathe. I've cut back on everything. No more dinners out, no new clothes, and even gifts for family have become a source of anxiety rather than joy. It's not just about being frugal, it's about the fear that if I slip up even once, I might spiral. The economic environment feels like a constant opponent. Prices climb faster than I can adapt. Inflation is a word I hear on the news, but it's not just a statistic to me, it's the reality of watching the cost of a simple grocery trip double over a few months. It's the rising rent that steals half my paycheck before I even start my day. It's the stress of knowing that if something unexpected happens, a car repair, a medical bill, I'll be forced into choosing which basic need to sacrifice. There's this overwhelming feeling of being trapped. Like I'm caught in a system designed to keep me just barely afloat but never able to get ahead. Every time I try to save, something pulls me back. I feel like I'm working hard, but the harder I work, the further away stability seems. It's a cruel irony. effort without progress. Emotionally, it's draining. I feel ashamed sometimes, like I'm failing myself or my family. I mask it well, but inside there's a quiet battle with anxiety and hopelessness. I worry about the future, about never being able to build the life I imagined. Some nights, I lie awake wondering if this is all I'm destined for, a lifetime of scraping by, always looking over my shoulder. But even in the darkest moments, I find ways to cope. I hold on to small joys, listening to music, reading books borrowed from the library, taking walks in the park where it's free to breathe. I connect with friends who understand or are in the same boat, and that shared struggle makes me feel less alone. Sometimes, I allow myself to dream, even if just for a moment, picturing a day when money isn't a cage. I've had to postpone so many things I once believed were possible. A trip abroad, a new career course, even the idea of owning a car feels distant now. I think about family too, how much I want to be able to support them someday, to give back, but the constant financial strain makes it hard to imagine that future. I hold on to hope, though. It's fragile, but it's there. I know I'm not alone in this. So many of us are caught in this relentless cycle where expenses race ahead and income lags behind, where the system seems set up to keep us running but never arriving. I wish I could tell my younger self that it's okay to struggle, that these feelings don't mean failure. I wish the world would see how hard people like me are working just to survive. This is my reality, messy, painful, and uncertain, but it's also my story. And even if the treadmill keeps speeding up, I'm still here, still moving forward, holding on to the hope that someday, I'll find solid ground. It's hard to put into words the kind of pressure that never really lets up, the slow, persistent weight of knowing you're stuck in a place where no matter how hard you work, the numbers just don't add up. I'm 26 years old, and for as long as I can remember, money has been this constant source of anxiety that shapes almost every decision I make. The economic world around me feels like it's moving at a speed I can't keep pace with. Rent, bills, groceries, they all rise relentlessly, but my income? It stays stubbornly the same, or worse, sometimes feels like it's shrinking when you factor in inflation. Every morning I wake up thinking about money. It's the first thing on my mind and the last thing I think about before sleep. I sit at my tiny kitchen table with a cup of black coffee, scrolling through my bank app like it might change if I stare long enough. Budgeting has become my full-time job. I tally my expenses, subtract upcoming bills, and try to predict what the rest of the month looks like. It's like I'm trapped in this endless cycle where I'm always one unexpected expense away from crisis. Simple things have become complicated puzzles. Grocery shopping isn't just about picking what I want or need, it's a strategic operation. Do I buy fresh produce or opt for cheaper canned vegetables? Will that pack of chicken last for the week, or should I stretch it with rice and beans? Sometimes I skip meals altogether just to save a few dollars for rent or utilities. I'm constantly choosing between essentials, and it wears on me. Rent is the biggest beast to wrestle with. My apartment is small and older than I'd like, but it's all I can afford. Each month, the landlord increases the rent a little more, and I can't help but feel like I'm just throwing money into a black hole. There's no security here, just the fear that if I miss a payment, I'll be out on the street. That fear is always there, lurking behind everything else. Social life? Almost non-existent. When friends invite me out, I have to say no more often than not because I can't justify spending money on drinks or dinners. I watch them live their lives, traveling, buying homes, going to concerts, and it hurts. It's a quiet kind of loneliness, one that's wrapped in embarrassment and frustration. Sometimes I wonder if people see me as lazy or irresponsible when really I'm just drowning. Work is another source of stress. I put in long hours at a job that doesn't pay nearly enough. Overtime is rare, and raises are even rarer. I've taken on side gigs, delivering food, freelance writing, anything I can find, but it's exhausting, and it still doesn't feel like enough. I want to believe my hard work will pay off someday, but the future feels blurry and uncertain. I've had to postpone so many dreams. Going back to school for that degree I thought would open doors? That feels impossible now. Saving for a house? Forget it. Even small things, buying new clothes, getting a haircut, taking a weekend trip, feel like luxuries I can't afford. I tell myself these sacrifices are temporary, but temporary stretches on, like an endless tunnel with no light at the end. Emotionally, it's draining. There's a constant undercurrent of anxiety and stress that seeps into everything I do. I try to keep a brave face, but inside I'm scared and tired. Some days, I just want to give up, to stop pretending I can keep this all together. But I can't. I have to keep pushing, keep hoping. Coping means finding small ways to survive. I've learned to be resourceful, cooking meals in bulk, using community resources, and leaning on close friends when I need support. Writing this down helps too. Putting my experience into words makes it feel less isolating, like I'm not alone in this struggle. Despite everything, I hold on to hope. Hope that one day the system will change, that wages will rise, and costs will stabilize. Hope that I'll have the freedom to make choices based on what I want, not just what I can afford. Hope that I'll break free from this treadmill of financial pressure and finally breathe easy. This is my reality, a story of quiet endurance, of battling an invisible force that never stops growing, and of holding on to dreams even when the weight of the world says I shouldn't. But I keep going, because giving up isn't an option. Not yet. It's hard to put into words exactly what it feels like to live in a constant squeeze, like the world slowly closing in on you, tightening the grip every single day. I'm 27 now, and for as long as I can remember, money has been this shadow that follows me around, sometimes barely noticeable, other times crushingly heavy. It's not just about not having enough, it's about the way the system seems designed so that no matter what you do, expenses grow faster than your income. It's like running on a treadmill set to speed up whenever you think you've caught a comfortable pace. I graduated college 5 years ago, full of hope and ideas about what my life would look like. I had dreams, traveling, maybe starting a business, buying a small apartment of my own someday. But those dreams keep drifting further away, replaced by a growing list of bills and responsibilities. The rent on my small, barely decent apartment has shot up twice since I moved in. The paycheck? It's gone up, too, but barely enough to keep pace with rent, utilities, groceries, and student loans. Every month, it feels like I'm just trying to patch holes in a sinking boat. Some days, I wake up with a knot in my stomach. I check my bank app more times than I care to admit, hoping for a miracle. Sometimes, I even find myself avoiding it, because the numbers remind me that I'm barely scraping by. The cost of food, gas, healthcare, it's relentless. It's not just the money, though. It's the way this pressure leaks into every part of my life, turning small decisions into weighted calculations. Should I skip lunch to save a few bucks? Do I risk driving to a cheaper grocery store that's a little farther away, burning gas I can't really afford? Should I take on extra hours at work, even if it means missing out on rest or time with friends, just to keep my head above water? The emotional toll is exhausting. It's hard not to feel invisible, like no one truly understands how this constant financial tightrope affects me. My friends talk about their weekends out, spontaneous trips, new gadgets. I smile and nod, but inside, there's a sting, not from envy, but from a deep sadness that my life isn't where I hoped it would be. I'm not reckless or lazy, I work hard, sometimes 2 jobs. But no matter how hard I hustle, the numbers barely budge in my favor. Some nights, the loneliness creeps in. It's isolating, feeling trapped in a system where your choices are so limited. The idea of saving for the future feels almost laughable when you're just trying to cover today. Emergency funds? A distant fantasy. Investing in myself? That's on hold indefinitely. I've had to postpone plans to go back to school, not because I don't want to learn, but because the financial risk is too high. The thought of debt stacking up with no guarantee of a better job is terrifying. Coping has become a daily practice. I find small ways to hold on to hope, a morning jog to clear my head, a book borrowed from the library, cooking meals at home even when all I want is to order takeout. I cling to the idea that this won't last forever, that somehow, things will change. I try to remind myself that I'm not alone, even though it feels that way sometimes. I've also learned to be honest with myself, which is hard. I have to acknowledge the reality without letting it define me completely. I remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my bank balance. Still, it's a struggle, a daily fight to believe that I can break free from this cycle. I dream of a day when I can breathe a little easier, when paying rent won't take up half my paycheck, when I can think about saving for a home or traveling somewhere I've never been. I dream of stability, not luxury. A chance to build a life without the constant dread of bills and expenses spiraling out of control. Until then, I keep moving forward, step by step. I hold on to those dreams quietly, even as they feel fragile. Because if I stop dreaming, what's left? The trap might be tight, but it hasn't closed entirely. There's still a sliver of space for hope. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to keep going. It's like being stuck in quicksand. Every time I think I'm making progress, the ground beneath me just pulls me down deeper. I'm 27, working full-time, living in a city where rent feels like a punch to the gut every single month, and I still can't seem to get ahead. The numbers don't add up. They never do. I wake up each morning knowing I'll have to stretch whatever's left in my bank account until the next paycheck. But the truth is, that paycheck is less and less powerful with each passing month. Prices climb so fast, groceries, utilities, gas, even the simplest cup of coffee at the corner shop, and my income stays stubbornly the same. It's not just about the money, really. It's about how it makes me feel. Like I'm running a race where the finish line keeps moving further away. Like no matter how hard I work, the system is designed to keep me in place, or worse, push me backward. I remember when I first got this job, fresh out of college. I was so proud. Finally earning my own money, paying my bills, maybe even saving a little for the future. Back then, I dreamed of traveling, maybe moving to a bigger apartment, or starting to build some kind of safety net. But now, those dreams feel like luxury items, just out of reach. The thought of opening a savings account or investing in my future seems naive, even foolish. Every decision is filtered through the lens of, can I afford this? It's exhausting. Simple things like deciding whether to buy new shoes or fix the ones I have become battles of necessity versus aspiration. When my laptop started acting up, I had to weigh the cost of repairs against the risk of falling behind at work, because without it, my income stops altogether. I chose the repairs, even though it meant skipping meals and cutting back on essentials for weeks. The emotional toll is heavier than I thought it would be. I lie awake sometimes, heart pounding, stomach tied in knots, wondering how long I can keep this up. There's a gnawing anxiety that never really goes away. It's hard to admit, but I've felt hopeless more times than I care to count. Like I'm trapped in a cage made of bills, rent notices, and endless what-ifs. The pressure seeps into every part of my life. I get irritable, withdrawn. Sometimes I catch myself snapping at friends or feeling too embarrassed to join in social events because I can't afford it. I've learned to cope, or at least try. I've become a master of budgeting, clipping coupons, hunting for sales, and meal prepping until my fingers ache. I've started using public transport more, cutting down on little luxuries like streaming services, even though it feels like giving up pieces of my sanity. But the irony is, even with all these sacrifices, the weight of financial strain feels relentless. It's like a slow drip of water wearing away at a rock, barely noticeable day to day, but devastating over time. Sometimes, when I'm alone, I allow myself to imagine a different life. A life where I don't have to calculate every cent or worry about unexpected expenses wrecking my month. I dream of a place that feels like home, with enough space to breathe, where I can invite friends over without stressing over cleaning or whether the fridge is empty. I dream of traveling, not just scrolling through Instagram photos of sunsets and mountains, but actually being there, experiencing the world beyond these gray city blocks. But those dreams feel postponed indefinitely. The truth is, they may never come true if the economic system keeps spiraling this way. It feels like I'm caught in a cycle where expenses climb faster than I can earn, and any progress I make is swallowed up by rising costs and unexpected bills. It's a slow grind that wears down your spirit. Sometimes I wonder if it's me, if I'm just not working hard enough or smart enough. But deep down, I know this isn't about personal failure. It's about a system that prioritizes profits over people, that lets inflation and stagnating wages push everyday folks like me into survival mode. The anger and frustration bubble beneath the surface, but I try to channel that energy into small victories, paying off a credit card, finding a little extra in my paycheck, or just making it through another month without falling behind. There are days when the weight of it all feels unbearable. Days when I feel invisible, like my struggles don't matter, like I'm just a cog in a machine that grinds on regardless of how worn out I feel. But I hold on to hope, fragile as it is. Hope that things might change. That maybe, someday, I'll be able to live without this constant pressure suffocating me. That I can reclaim my dreams, no longer postponed but pursued. Until then, I keep going. One day, one paycheck, one small step at a time. Because despite everything, I still believe in a better tomorrow, even if it's hard to see through the fog right now. This is my reality, raw and unfiltered. A story of struggle, survival, and quiet resilience in a world that often feels designed to hold me back. It's a strange kind of exhaustion that settles into your bones when you realize the world around you is moving too fast, and you're stuck in place, running on a treadmill that only speeds up. I'm 27 now. And for years, financial pressure has been this invisible but relentless shadow trailing my every move. It's like the economy itself was designed to leave people like me behind, expenses climbing faster than any raise I get, and the gap between what I earn and what I owe growing wider each month. Every morning, I wake up with this tight knot in my chest, a mix of anxiety and fatigue that never quite goes away. I check my bank account first thing, hoping maybe something's changed. Maybe there's an extra paycheck I forgot about, or a refund I didn't expect. But the numbers are always the same or worse, smaller after I pay rent, utilities, and all the other bills that pile up relentlessly. Rent is the worst. It feels like I'm throwing my paycheck into a bottomless pit. The place I live is cramped, not much more than a closet, but it's affordable compared to everything else. Every year, the rent creeps up, and with it, the pressure. I've been lucky not to lose my home, but I'm terrified every month that a single missed payment could change everything. I've cut back everywhere else to keep that roof over my head. Food is often sacrificed. Fresh produce is a luxury I can rarely afford, and sometimes, I find myself skipping meals just to stretch the last few dollars. Groceries have turned into a complicated math problem. I carefully calculate how much I can spend on food after rent and bills, and then plan meals around whatever is cheapest, not what's healthiest or even what I want. Pasta and canned goods have become staples, not by choice but by necessity. I avoid social outings, not because I don't want to be with friends, but because going out means spending money I simply don't have. The loneliness that comes with that is crushing. Work isn't a refuge, either. I'm stuck in a job that pays the bills but doesn't offer security or growth. I do my best, but raises are few and far between, and they never keep pace with inflation. I've picked up side gigs, anything I can find to bring in extra cash, but the exhaustion from juggling multiple jobs leaves me drained, emotionally and physically. Sometimes I wonder if it's all worth it. If no matter how hard I try, I'm just spinning my wheels in a system designed to keep people like me struggling. The emotional toll is immense. There's a persistent low-grade stress that sits with me constantly, making it hard to sleep, to concentrate, to find joy in anything. I feel trapped, like I'm in a cage built from bills and overdue notices, and every attempt to break free just tightens the bars. It's a lonely battle. I hesitate to tell others how bad it really is because there's shame in not being able to keep up. I worry they'll see me as irresponsible or lazy, but the truth is I'm scared and overwhelmed. Dreams have become a casualty of this reality. I wanted to go back to school, get a degree that could open doors to a better future. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond the city I grew up in. I dreamed of owning a home someday, building a life that didn't revolve around money stress. But those dreams feel like distant, impossible luxuries now. They've been postponed indefinitely, shelved away like a forgotten book gathering dust. Coping means making tiny adjustments just to survive. I stretch every dollar, look for discounts, use food banks when I can. I lean on a few close friends who understand, even if they can't fully grasp the weight I carry. Writing this down, sharing my story, is a small act of courage, because it's hard to admit how trapped I feel in this economic grind. But maybe, by speaking openly, I'm reminding myself and others that I'm not alone, that this isn't just my fight but one shared by so many. I hold on to hope. Not the naive kind, but the stubborn kind that refuses to let go even when everything feels bleak. I hope for a future where I can breathe without counting every penny, where my hard work translates into real progress, and where I can finally start living the life I've only dreamed of. Until then, I keep moving forward, one small step at a time, carrying the weight but refusing to be crushed by it. I wake up every morning to the same quiet dread. The sun filters through my threadbare curtains, and for a moment, I almost forget where I am, or more accurately, where I'm stuck. Then reality sinks back in. I'm still in this tiny apartment, paying rent that feels like a mountain I'll never climb. Another month, another paycheck, and somehow, the numbers never add up. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, but my legs just can't catch pace. Financial pressure isn't just about money, it's the constant weight on your chest that no one talks about. Every decision I make is calculated, dissected, and pared down to what's absolutely necessary. Groceries? I buy the cheapest brands, nothing fresh or fancy. Utilities? I'm scared to turn the heater on even when the winter chill seeps into my bones. Social life? Forget it. A night out means spending on a meal or drinks that I simply can't afford. I lie to my friends sometimes, saying I'm busy or saving up, but really, I'm just too embarrassed to admit I can't keep up. The economic environment outside these walls feels like a storm that never clears. Prices rise every month: rent, gas, groceries, phone bill, but my income is this small, stubborn stream that refuses to grow. The minimum wage increases barely keep up with inflation, and with no college degree or special skills, promotions and raises are out of reach. It's like the system was designed for people like me to tread water forever, never sinking completely, but never swimming forward either. Some days, I feel completely invisible, like I'm just a background character in someone else's story of success and prosperity. Watching friends buy houses, travel, or start families feels like looking through a window into a life I'll never have. I remember when I was younger, I dreamed about having a stable home, a career I loved, and a little savings for emergencies. But those dreams have been shelved, gathering dust. Now, the best I can hope for is a steady paycheck and no surprise expenses that throw me off balance. It's exhausting, mentally and emotionally. I wake up anxious, wondering if my bank account will cover my electric bill or if I'll have to skip meals again. I go to sleep stressed, making mental lists of what I can cut next month, if anything. The pressure bleeds into my relationships too. I avoid inviting friends over because I can't afford to host. I hesitate to ask for help, ashamed that I'm failing at adulting. Loneliness creeps in, not just from lack of money but from the isolation that financial strain breeds. Coping isn't easy, but I try. I've learned to find small pockets of joy: a free community event, a quiet walk in the park, a late-night call with someone who understands. I keep a journal where I write down what I'm grateful for, even if it's just the taste of my morning coffee or a text from a friend. Sometimes I binge-watch old sitcoms or listen to music that lifts my mood, just to escape for a little while. But those moments feel fleeting, like holding sand that slips right through my fingers. Bills stack up, and I juggle due dates, often paying the minimum or asking for extensions. Credit cards are a double-edged sword, a temporary lifeline but a future pitfall. I've read enough financial advice to know I shouldn't rely on them, but sometimes, there's no choice. It's a cycle that's hard to break. More debt means less freedom, which means fewer opportunities to save or improve my situation. Work is another source of mixed feelings. I'm grateful to have a job, but it's not fulfilling. I clock in, do the tasks, and clock out, often feeling numb. I think about pursuing education or training, but the cost and time commitment feel like luxuries I can't afford. And even if I did, would it guarantee a better future? Sometimes I feel trapped in this low-wage loop, with the economy stacked against people like me, the ones who work hard but never quite get ahead. Yet, despite it all, I hold on to hope. Not the kind of naive, reckless hope, but a quiet, stubborn flame that refuses to go out. I remind myself that this isn't forever. One day, maybe, I'll find a better job, maybe I'll get that raise or that promotion. Maybe I'll get the courage to go back to school, or the opportunity will come knocking when I least expect it. Maybe I'll finally save enough to move into a place that doesn't feel like a cage. Until then, I keep moving forward, even if it's just baby steps. I learn to celebrate the small victories, making rent on time, resisting the urge to buy something unnecessary, finishing a book that inspired me. I connect with others who understand, because shared struggle makes the weight a little lighter. And I remind myself that my worth isn't measured by my bank balance, but by my resilience, my dreams, and my willingness to keep fighting. The system feels cold and unforgiving, like a maze with no clear exit. But I'm still here, still trying. And maybe that's enough for now. Maybe that's where real courage lives, in showing up every day, even when you're scared, even when it feels hopeless. Because one day, when the storm finally passes, I want to look back and know I didn't give up on myself. I still remember the first time I truly felt the weight of money pressing down on me. It wasn't just the usual tightness when the bills pile up or when my paycheck runs out before the month ends. It was a deep, sinking feeling, like being caught in a current that only pulls me further away from where I want to be. Now, as a young adult navigating a world that seems to demand more and give less, that feeling has become a constant companion. I'm 27, working a job that pays just enough to keep the lights on, the rent paid, and food on the table, but not much more. Every day, I wake up with this gnawing anxiety about money, about whether I'll have enough to cover the basics, let alone save for anything meaningful. The truth is, my income hasn't really kept up with the cost of living. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, student loans, all of it creeps upward, like an unstoppable tide that swallows any attempt I make to get ahead. I remember a few years ago, when I still had hope that my financial situation would improve quickly. I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to travel, maybe even start my own business someday. I thought I'd buy a car that wasn't a hand-me-down, maybe even a place of my own before I turned 30. But those dreams feel further and further away with every paycheck that barely stretches. The system feels rigged. Every time I think I'm making progress, a new expense pops up. Car insurance goes up. Rent increases again. Grocery prices rise so fast I can't keep up. And yet, my paycheck stays the same, or at best, nudges up by a few dollars that barely make a dent. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up the longer you run. No matter how hard I try, I'm stuck in place. Sometimes, I lie awake at night thinking about how this constant financial pressure has shaped my life. It's exhausting. It's isolating. I don't feel free. I have to budget every single dollar with military precision. There's no room for spontaneity, no buffer for mistakes, and definitely no space for emergencies. Even social outings feel like a luxury, something I can't afford without guilt gnawing at me. I've had to say no to so many things I once took for granted. Birthday parties, concerts, weekend trips with friends. Instead of joining in, I watch from the sidelines because I'm afraid of spending money I don't have. The worst part is feeling like I'm missing out not because I don't want to participate but because the system makes it impossible. On the rare days when I get a little extra, maybe a tax refund or a bonus, I try to save it. But even then, there's an internal battle. Do I save for an emergency that might never come? Or do I use some of it to breathe, to give myself a moment's relief from this suffocating cycle? Often, I cave in and spend a little on myself, feeling both guilty and relieved. It's a small rebellion, a way to remind myself that I'm still human and not just a financial number. My emotional well-being has taken a hit. The constant stress of money wears on me. I get anxious before opening bills, before payday, before any financial decision. There are moments of hopelessness, too, times when it feels like no matter what I do, I'll never catch up. It's a heavy feeling, one that sits in my chest and makes it hard to breathe. Yet, despite all this, I keep going. I try to find ways to cope. I lean on close friends who understand, even if they can't fully grasp the pressure. I've started journaling to get my fears and frustrations out of my head. I remind myself of small victories, like sticking to my budget, or cooking a meal at home instead of eating out. It's these tiny wins that keep me afloat. I dream still, though I've had to reshape those dreams. Maybe I can't buy a house right now, but maybe I can start a small emergency fund. Maybe I can't quit my job to follow my passion just yet, but I can take online classes or pick up a side gig that feeds my soul and my wallet. I hold on to hope that one day, the tide will turn. But it's hard not to feel trapped in a system that values constant growth, consumerism, and profit over people like me, people who work hard but still struggle. The gap between my expenses and income feels like a canyon I can't cross. And every month, it seems to grow wider. Sometimes I wonder if I'm alone in this. So many of my peers talk about saving for retirement, buying homes, investing. I envy their confidence. I envy the security they have, or at least the hope of it. I want to believe that one day I'll get there, too. That I'll break free from this cycle and build a life where money isn't a source of constant fear. Until then, I live in this tension, balancing on the edge of exhaustion and hope, trapped in a system that doesn't seem designed for people like me. But I'm still here. I'm still fighting. Because what else can I do? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.